Okay, so I want to address something that had popped up on my Facebook universe. Someone that I like and care very much about asked me to speak to this, which I was not going to do. But here we are. And I think it's important to respect their opinion. So this is a post that I made about the Self magazine that put Jessamyn Stanley on the cover. This is the article. Jessamyn Stanley, may have said her name wrong. I apologize. Self Magazine, 2022 Fitness Advisory Board: The Relentless Reality of Anti-Fitness Fatness in Fitness, and 4 ways to respond to unnecessary encouragement at the gym. And then it's the future of fitness. And I wrote, "That is fit. These people, Self Magazine, are and will be complicit with the deaths of these obese people. Sorry, people with comorbidities. People have betrayed the very purpose of existing." That's Self Magazine. "Having a weight problem or being obese doesn't nullify your beauty as a person or a value, and it doesn't mean you are healthy." So I want to explain a little bit more before I get to the comment that I really want to respond to, the point of doing the video. And that was to give you some context of what the articles are going for. This is not an uncommon magazine that you will find these days, because this is what they're doing. They are glorifying. This is actually the Self Magazine editor-in-chief, Lita Shai. We'll get to her in a moment. This is how the article starts. And I want to be clear. I do agree with the tenor. First off, she wrote an article, which we'll get to hers, and her opinion actually matters. This Lita Shai and this cover piece and all this is all just the propaganda. This is all just self-congratulatory propaganda about it's not appropriate to fat shame people and everybody's pretty. Okay, yeah, but that's not the point. The point is that Ms. Stanley may be doing fine, and she can do yoga and she can exercise, but there's a lot of folks that there's a lot more to this than just that. And it says, so this is Lita Shai, talks about her own personal experiences, right? I have to have her own personal experiences first. So she has her experiences and having a good run and blah, 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 blah. Well, all that being said, for many, the world of fitness can be far more limiting than freeing. In gyms, on social media, and other fitness dedicated spaces, the focus on what our bodies look like can make it hard for those with bodies that don't conform to narrowly defined norms to feel like they belong. For far too long, people with larger bodies have been met with limitations, judgment, and intimidation in spaces designed to help us all reach our potentials. I agree with all of that. That's fine, right? Why am I so excited to exist? Blah, blah, blah. We're talking about people who are changing the landscape of an industry that has for too long excluded many. And then it talks about the body positivity movement, as well as thoughtful explorations that have challenged our complacent ideas about weight and size. Okay, we're starting to get into the nut of it now. How we discuss larger bodies, okay, where anti-fat bias and weight-related stigmas are entrenched in our collective understanding. Now, mind you, these are the people putting out magazines month after month after month, flooding magazines with anorexic models, giving people mental disorders about their health, women, shaming women for not looking like these, 100-pound starved individuals, right? The solution is not to go the other way and say, okay, well, she's the role model. She's the future of fitness, right? And she does a great article. I want to get to her article because she actually says some great things. And I think it's important to understand what she's saying. So she says, yes, this one, anti-fat, and it's weird because the articles say different things, but it says 6 ways fitness instructors can check their anti-fat bias. Outright body shaping is a form of anti-fat bias, no longer acceptable. It should never have been acceptable, and never should have been, which I agree with. In a fitness space or any space, it's not appropriate to just be mean and cruel to people. Children do that, right? We teach our children not to behave this way, right? I tell a story all the time. Little kids in a grocery store start thinking fatty, fatty, boom, blatty, right? It is wrong. And you correct them and you teach them not to do this. And as adults, you hope they do the same thing. Now, I'm not saying that people don't misspeak and are insensitive or they're jerks, especially people that are fit. You have people that come in They don't feel comfortable and all that. People are looking at them. Okay, I mean, I know all that's going to exist, but we're not going to wave a magic wand and make all of that go away. Okay. She does a great job of talking about, being movement, being an ally to clients with larger bodies, go beyond, abolishing fat burning talk, food earning comments, and threats of impending swimsuit season. Okay. We are using like soft coded language here to say, we need to tell fat people more than just their diets, and food earning comments. I have no idea what that means. And then threats of swimsuit issues, like you're going to look terrible in a swimsuit because you're extremely overweight. The best allies don't feel like they're allies at all. They consider themselves members of communities they serve. And she's talking about people in the gym and the fitness community, which is fine. And it's talking about trainers to be aware of certain biases and blind spots that may be standing in the way of creating a sense of shared community. Listen, I'll be honest. Most trainers probably are not good with overweight people. This is probably a market that needs to be tapped into. It's a sub-market of places that already exist, and they can do a good job of accepting people. And it talks about offer a variety of movements, right? She's into yoga, talks about different types of fitness classes. All of this is wonderful stuff. And I'm glad that she has stepped out and become a role model. And that's not the problem with the Self magazine. The problem with the Self magazine is that they're glorifying all this, right? We're getting advice from people who really just want a virtue signal that they're somehow, the ones that know. Look at this lady. This is the lady. This is the editor-in-chief. This is the lady that wrote the op-ed. She's running the magazine. Pat herself on the back for what she's doing. I am just so happy that we're doing our ambassador program, our 2022 fitness advisory report. Look at her. She weighs like 130 pounds wet, right? Just beautiful lady. Never had an ounce of ability to relate to Miss Stanley. None, zero, right? Okay, so I wanted to go to why I wanted to stream this, and that was because I got the comments for hating me for writing my post, right? So I am not going to put them on blast. If you know where I'm at, you'll be able to figure it out. So the first comment, this is how I love people who want to criticize you, because a lot of times the presumption is that you just don't know what you're talking about. Okay, quote, I dare you to actually watch Jessamyn doing yoga and tell me she's not fit though. Okay, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm saying she is okay, and she's okay to have as a role model, but you need to have a caveat of what we're talking about. We're not talking about someone that's a little bit overweight. We're talking about morbidly obese people. Okay, maybe she's young. I don't know her situation, but people that are in this circumstance most commonly already have early onset diabetes, high blood pressure, early symptoms of heart disease. They need to be in communication with their doctor before just walking into a gym and a fitness program and all this. Okay. This can all be very, very dangerous. Not to mention, I called it a comorbidity on purpose because our press didn't want to handle our pandemic and tell people you're fat and you're probably the one at the highest of risks. Okay. Because we didn't want to promote getting healthy. In fact, we closed gyms. Okay. Magazines like this that are still trying to create a lane to make these people feel more comfortable, it can do more harm than good, right? It's great for Miss Stanley. She can be a role model. But for other folks, there's a nice place, not for shaming and belittling and being cruel, but there's a nice place for some tough honesty. You've got to get up and move, okay? What is your definition of fitness? My definition of fitness varies by the individual, just like I'm sure it does for you, and just like it will be for all of the doctors. This is part of my reason on why during the pandemic, I said, none of this, as someone who works in the psychology community, none of this is a one size fits all. Okay. What works for my wife does not work for me. She'd be the first to tell you that it's extremely frustrating to be married to someone like me who can switch to diet sodas and not have fries and lose weight. Okay. I'm sorry. I came with a certain metabolism. Her metabolism is different. She's also given birth to 3 children. Okay. Her body type is different, right? I'm at least 6 inches taller than my wife. Okay. There's a whole bunch of different things that come into play. Okay. Our age comes into play. How active we are when we were younger, how active we are now. Okay. You certainly can't diagnose it by simply looking at a picture of someone. I was not trying to fat shame the person on the cover of this magazine. And I'm sorry if Miss Stanley, that's what it would come across. That is not my intent. You can be a role model. That's great. What I'm saying is Self Magazine is doing a terrible job when they're putting all their eggs in baskets, saying, run out and join a gym. Here's some things for trainers to think about. Here's some things for you to do, get moving, right? That's fine. Okay. Being overweight and being healthy aren't necessarily mutually exclusive. Okay. Well, you get away with that sentence because you said aren't necessarily. Of course, they're not necessarily. But more times than not, being overweight and being healthy are two things that are in conflict with one another. Even if you're not morbidly obese, if you're just somewhat overweight, maybe you were overweight and now you're not. You probably may have, shouldn't say probably, you may have some health concerns that your doctor may need to take into consideration. You may be on blood pressure medication. You may be limited on certain types of activities that you should or shouldn't do, right? Then the comment goes on to say, there's a second part of the comment, and it said, and part of the reason it's important to promote people like her is that others can believe that they're too big and they do yoga, might change their mind when they see someone like her doing it successfully. Absolutely agree. But I'm going to be honest, I don't believe it. I don't. I'm sorry. I believe a handful of people will see her as a role model, maybe as a country, a few hundred people, maybe, and it's wonderful for her and them, and I'm happy they did it. But that is not the tone and the purpose of Self Magazine. It should be more than that. And it's nothing more than a clickbaity cover article, cover photo, and gimmick to sell magazines and get attention. And, you know, we get a bunch of people who are morbidly obese and they can read it and they can feel about how great she is. And I would like to hope that maybe they can be instituted into, they can try a few things, so they can find some success. And in certain areas, they can find trainers and gyms that can be receptive and be helpful, and they can fit in and they can actually find ways to not just lose weight, but also become healthier. Of course, we all hope that. And again, this is for someone who's just justifying Ms. Stanley. She understands modifications are necessary to make bigger bodies. She's actually motivating people to exercise who otherwise probably wouldn't out of shame. That's all fine. That's all good. I'm very happy with that. I never like these comments. I should, because I always like comments. It is not my intent that I was posting that in a negative light to shame her or people who are also struggling with their weight, let alone be morbidly obese, but to say or try to make it seem like we should suddenly soften the societal norms to be more accepting or more embracing of people who are not overweight, but really overweight, if not morbidly obese, because that is a very dangerous place for your health. It puts you in high risk, and the pandemic should have taught you that. It should have been the first thing we were telling people in the last couple of years. And instead, we're seeing this new rash, this new, code words, little nuanced phrases of, anti-fat biases and larger bodies. And let me see what some of the stuff that was in here about digital options. Okay, listen, if you can't get up and do something, obviously, again, go back to consult your doctor. We probably have bigger problems to do here to get healthy enough to exercise, right? So you need to find the right mechanisms with your doctor. No one should be body shaming another human being. No one should be fat shaming people. But we also don't need some, little self-grandizing leftist pencil-sized female patting herself on the back by putting a morbidly obese yoga phenomenon. She's a unicorn. She is not a norm, and it may work for a few people, but we can't have people pretending that this is a healthy body style because they do yoga and they leave yoga. This was a comedian named John Panette who he would talk about being on the treadmill or one of those ellipticals, going, ravioli and a nap, ravioli. Okay, no, you can't go to yoga class and then throw down some Snickers and raviolis and take a nap. No, that's not going to work. Okay. So that was the point, and I hope that I've expanded on my post and responded to these comments and let people know that it is important to not just exercise, but to be healthy, but also the communication with the doctor. It is way more than just it's almost like a get rich quick scheme with these magazines, and I think this is the beauty shaming that we're having before, now it's like fat shaming. Like, so now it's a trick. So instead of you getting the magazine and you reading the magazine and feeling bad about yourself because you don't look like the models that are in the magazine, now it's like you get the magazine because you might be down the rabbit hole of someone that looks similar, having the kind of problem. You think it's going to help you, and you never move, or you think it's a magic trick. You can do a few yoga classes, but you're not losing any weight. You haven't consulted with your doctor. You may not have changed your diet. There are massive lifestyle changes, because at that point, I got to be honest, and this is tough pastor hat love. If you are that morbidly obese, odds are the food is your God. You have a crutch. You have your place where you go to eat to deal with whatever stress and anxiety and issues there are. And if you're going to try to just replace that with something else, it will not last. It will become maybe a replacement. Maybe you can lose weight with something else. I know someone who went on like a radical, massive diet. We're talking like 500 or 600 calories. I don't even know how their doctor would let her do this to herself. And it's true. She sat in front of a room. I've heard her speak, and praise God, she lost all that weight. She looked like a completely different human being. And as far as I know, I haven't seen her recently. I know when she got pregnant and had a baby and gained a lot of weight, and then had a hard time getting on a diet again, and she gained a lot of that weight back. And it's a roller coaster, because the food is the drug, and life is more than just whatever we try to put in our heart. There's a hole there you have to fill with something greater and bigger than just those things. So maybe this helps one person. Maybe it just expands on my comment. Appreciate you watching. You head over to Watch Your Story. You can subscribe. Appreciate your time. Different videos on life lessons, words of wisdom, that kind of thing. So this one just came from me. So take it for what you get.